one. This is the Sourceseeker Hour. I'm your host, Baruti Carl Alexander. This is our 91st episode, and hold on here. I have got a little backed up, but we're gonna make it work. There we go, right there. Hey, brother Supreme, how you doing? This is the Sourceseeker, our 91st episode. I am very happy that everybody has joined us for this very important conversation. We have a gentleman joining us right now. This conversation is about economic value and building generational wealth. Economic value and building generational wealth. Very important in our community. A lot of times we don't talk about these things. We kind of live in the here and now, but we do not necessarily look at our future. Now, in our past, we didn't have, or we had not been encouraged to do that. I mean, we come from a tremendous history. Most of the gentlemen on the show, we know we have come through family struggles. We have come through historical struggles. I made a comparison of how Anheuser-Busch started in 1852. And of course, we understand where we were at that time. So we didn't have the same opportunity as the Bush family had to create generational wealth. So we have had to look at things in a different perspective so that we can get a piece of that American pie with the opportunities that we have. This is the Sourceseeker Hour. At this time, I'm going to ask our guests to introduce themselves. I would like to start. Brother Jeff, are you ready?
Yes,
I want
sir.
you to introduce yourself, Brother Jeff, if you would.
All right, awesome.
On this momentous occasion and this subject.
Can you guys hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, you know, when you're using Zoom, it's always good to double check because technology does have a way of surprising you. Greetings, everybody who's listening, no matter where you are in the world. This is Jeffrey Hill. I am the CEO of Hill Financial Group, a wealth accumulation firm. I'm hailing right now in the nice island of Cozumel, Mexico, because I am on a traveling journey for the entire year. So pleasure to make everybody's acquaintance, see some familiar faces, see some new faces, and I'm ready to get into the topics and discuss.
Thank you very much. Brother Supreme, can you share with us next?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Greetings, everyone. How's everyone doing? Thank you, Brother Carl, for this amazing platform that you put together to just, to have these discussions, because we being in America, knowing like how you started off, those opportunities that wasn't given to us, we have to bridge the gap and learn how to work together and learn how to have these topics together, without it being, this and that. So I'm the CEO and founder of Forward Money Network, and we are a financial education platform, and we also teach people how to build wealth from home, how to generate income from home, and we also teach strongly about the power of gold and the power of blockchain technology, cryptocurrency. And we are also involved in group economics, what we strongly preach, because we like to get the information out about the science of business that our people didn't get, but the information is out now, so we provide that. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Supreme. I would like to introduce my longtime friend, Brother Darrly Malloy. Darrell, share a little bit about who you are, what you do, and if you want to, a little of our history.
Yes, Darrly Malloy. I'm a real estate broker. I have a degree in accounting, minor in construction management. I'm on vacation as well. I'm up in Denver visiting with my grandson. So learning about or talking about wealth building for your family is excellent timing for me, living it right now. And real estate broker out of the Dallas area. Have lived in the Houston area, grew up with Carl. We used to have our own Olympics back in the day as little kids, running home from elementary school. You had to jump over this bush or that bush to make it home and see who would get home first. And just some exciting days growing up. Glad to be a part of the show.
Peace and power, peace and power. Again, the name of this the name of this program is Economic Value and Building Generational Wealth. I like to start with that subject. What does that mean? Economic value and building generational wealth. I put that in there about economic value because a lot of times we don't know what has economic value and why. And I think it's very important. A lot of things that people don't even think about have economic value. I know there should be a lot of points on that. Supreme, why don't you take that particular subject about what does that mean, economic value and building generational wealth?
Yeah, you know, one of the first laws of the universe is motion. And then, you know, the second law is order. So when we're dealing with a people, when we're a whole people to ourselves, and any nation has to have its own economics. It had to have its own economy, right? And so when you're dealing with economic value, by us being in America, really segregated outside of America's economic infrastructure, where we at the bottom of the totem pole, but we really built up the economic system, you know, that showing that we don't have it. So when we're talking about value, it's how that everybody can benefit from what we're doing, not just some at the top, not just some over here to the side, but everybody, including the poor person that might don't have the platform or the education that we have. You know, it's just about putting it on the equal playing field to see the value when we talk about the word economic. You know what I'm saying? Because we have to have something that generates that benefits the whole. And we don't have it. And that's why we're falling further behind. And that's why this topic is so important, because the average person in America, we are taught to go to school to work for money, to trade time for cash, which is nothing but a dying piece of paper, and they're printed every day. So when we're talking about economic value, we got to have something that's going to last over time, something that value will appreciate over time. That's one of the main things that we have to take a look at, and that's what I got at that. So when we saying economic value, something with real value can't go to zero, and it can't just be printed out of thin air. So when we're dealing with that, we have to start at the base, and any base that we have to start with when we're dealing with economic value, we need what? We need some earth that we can call our own. All right, back to you.
Oh, thank you for that. You was talking about the nature and the order, and we got to hear more about that, Supreme. Brother Darrell, take that subject of economic value.
To me, as Brother Supreme just mentioned, economic value is more than money. But economic value, of course, starts with education. And I think it starts as little as, 1-2-year-old kids, teaching them how to count, and teach them how to count using money. I actually have a tutoring service that I do tutoring, and I use money as my way of teaching kids how to count, teaching kids fractions. I had a fifth grade I was working with that was having a problem with fractions. And we took a dollar bill and we made it into quarters, so a fourth, and just taught her about counting money as a way of actually using fractions. And if we learn, it was amazing how she didn't understand what a fourth was. And then I asked if she had 3/4, how much would she have? She said 75 cents. I said, that's just like having 3/4 and make that into fractions. So I think, if we utilize money as a way of teaching kids, whether we count pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, dollar bills, that long term, they will have an appreciation for money and they will understand math. And understanding math is the most important thing. I think about, let's say, if we think about the people on earth right now, the African Americans in sports in America that make the most money, that make millions of dollars a year. But on average, after 5 years after they've played the game, they're broke. They haven't learned to count the money. They haven't learned to save the money. And even though they're making long dollars, if they don't save those long dollars, so they don't invest those long dollars be gone.
Totally understandable. And we have really not been encouraged, unless we've been encouraged in our own circle, in our own family, but across the board. When we were going to elementary school, when we were going to middle school, we were not really taught the concept of economic value and money in that context. And it's not necessarily a public school system encouragement. And there's a whole lot of things I could go into that subject of, but it's really not taught across the board how important those particular things are. Brother Jeff, can you speak about economic value?
Yeah. So, and I want to take a bit of a different approach to this, because everybody has been kind of spot on with what they've said. But it's one of the things that as I've traveled, I've noticed, like I'm currently here in Mexico, and one of the things that's taught here is the value of hard work. You see children in diapers, barely walking, who are not afraid to approach you with an entrepreneurial mindset. They got their little strings of bracelets, necklaces, everything, and they are approaching you with the intent to sell you one of their products. So think about what that's doing to the earlier generations, which is instilling how to count money. And one of the things my wife said, she was like, it's really interesting how quickly they learn, because a lot of times they're learning 2 languages out the gate, but they're also learning how to count 2 different currencies. They're learning how to convert pesos into US dollars and vice versa, right? They're learning how to negotiate, right? So it was crazy. We saw this little guy named Edwin. He approached us and said, hey, he was trying to sell himself, but he was speaking in Spanish. Now, granted, I know enough Spanish that I can have a conversation with him, but I wanted to challenge him to talk to me in English while I responded to him in Spanish. So it was a really cool interaction of the trade-off we were giving each other. And again, we ended up buying something from because it was just a really good experience. But what did I take from that? Think about economic value. This guy, I don't know if he made the bracelets, if he bought them somewhere, but think about what was being done. The currency was trading, and currency is sometimes it's not just money, right? You can barter, which was the original currency if you really want to go back that far. But now when you start to think about economic value, what is the output of goods? What is the goods and services that are being produced, whether that's tangible, fiat, digital? There's a lot of value that we have to learn ourselves and understand the currency or the flow of money, if you will, because if you can't understand how money flows, how do you direct something that you don't really understand how it goes, right? Like when you really understand that money, cash flow is a flow, then how do you put your cup over there to siphon off whatever is already moving? See, a lot of times, especially during recessions, we get really, really nervous because we feel like the money supply is shrinking during a recession. It's not. It's just moving hands. What did you learn from the last time the economy got rocked to put yourself in position? What more value did you learn how to create versus the last time? Did you learn how to increase your value per minute? Most people are not, they're unaware of these concepts, right? And it's not like I know it all. I'm just taking people on the journey as I learn it and as I'm getting a bigger cup to start flowing money in my direction so I can help change the bloodline of my family. Somebody has to be the first. So when we get rid of this mentality of just me and mine and really understand transitional and generational wealth, not just the money, but the education and what to do with it as well, that's when we start to see our economic value, the goods and services that we produce as a community. That's when we see a big change.
Sounds very powerful. I want to come at something that you said. You was talking about you were exchanging information and language with, what was his name, Edward?
Edwin.
Okay. So he's a young Forex trader in a way. He's exchanging different monies and he's learning about exchange of money and economic value and so forth. And that's so important that we do not get in our upbringing unless you have a circle or a support system that is encouraging that, but across the board, it's not something that is done. We are looking at life as consumers, most of our young people, and they're looking at it as, okay, what can somebody give me, as opposed to building something, as opposed to creating something. So that's one of the discussions and one of the emphasis that we would like to have. In the intro, I talked about how Anheuser-Busch started in 1852, and of course they started building generational wealth. Are there other examples out there that we can point to, and specifically Black examples of building generational wealth? I'm sure there's many. What are some of the ones that you all can think of? Darryl, you have any in mind?
You know, I'm looking for a positive one. I'm thinking about Madam C.J. Walker, first Black female millionaire. And you just wonder, where'd the money go? Because I think a lot of times what happens in our community is that we make it and the kids aren't made to be a part of the making. And so as business grows and goes on, the kids don't want to participate. So as a part of generational wealth, there has to be generational buy-in, which can occur through education and hands-on experience, as Jeffrey just made mention of. I think about some real estate deals I've done where I sit and I have an 8, 9, 10, 12-year-old Hispanic kid translating for their parents. And I sit there like, wow, this kid is learning a real estate transaction at 12 just through interpretation. And how sometimes, we don't share things like that with our little kids, with our 10, 11, 12-year-old kids, because that's a grown folks thing. And that's grown folks' business. So because it's grown folks' business, our kids don't participate, our kids don't learn, where other kids are learning and actually end up being much further ahead because they've learned the whole process. So education and participation with our kids is very good, very important.
I agree with that, but I do have to interject that in our history, we have had things like Tulsa that have happened. And so we had communities that had built economic and were set up for generational wealth. But we have had those particular things happen. That's a part of our history that we got to be honest about. And then the aspect of not encouraging education in our community, that aspect also. So yes, you're right, but we're here to change that today. Supreme, what do you say about that aspect of generational wealth?
Well, it all starts with the sacrifices that the generations who leaving it has to make. So we look around, you say you wanted to look at more of the Black ones who've done it, are doing it now. We see more of it now. For instance, so I grew up in the 90s, right? I was a teenager in the 90s. So one of the ones that is doing it now, and he's all on social media with it, is, let's take Master P, for example. Master P, he did it, and he taught Romeo. Now he's teaching it to all his children, but he taught Romeo first, where Romeo now knows how to run the business, produce products, market. Romeo know everything. So if P leave now, no limit in the empire that he built, Romeo would just take the seat. You know what I'm saying? And he would be the face of it because we seen what he did on that level. That's just one example, but that's passing down, but P passed down the education. You follow what I'm saying? Because why? It's so important for us to get free as parents. Why? Because if you are free, like me and my wife, our business is online. So everything that we do it at home with our phone or with our laptops, right? So this is what our children see. They don't see us go to work for a paycheck. So this is what they, even like our 5-year-old right now, she can probably do a whole presentation on what we do. She can actually call somebody and market them or pitch them or prospect them into our organization. You know what I'm saying? Just at 5. Why? Because repeatedly, every day, she see her father doing it. She see her mother doing it. Children they reflect what we do, not so much on what we say. So it's hard to teach entrepreneurship when your children see you going to a job every day. If we did have a mortar brick, could we have enough time where both of our parents, where one of us could homeschool the children, and that way part of they would be spent at the business establishment instead of them at school 8 hours, 10 hours a day, you know what I'm saying? And they missing that part of it. Because if we go to these Arab shops, not the Arab, but the Chinks are really master of it. Like he said, the Mexican, we go to their shop, they stores, you're gonna see 12, 10-year-old serving you, handling the cash register, taking the receipt, doing that part of the operations of the business. Not, they ain't just gonna be cleaning or nothing. They're gonna be doing the operation part of the business. That's what we have to do. So it's always about how free are the parents to pass down or to show the example on how to be free, how to pass down the generational wealth. Because of, if I don't never plug my child into it, for instance, I have an 18-year-old. She didn't see me doing what I'm doing now. So what is she doing? She was raised pretty much primarily by her mother, her grandma. So she going to work for a job right now at 18. But her father is an entrepreneur, is in the asset class, building a business, but she won't tap in. She won't come to nothing and see it. Why? Because her mind is gone. She didn't see that. But the children I have now, her younger siblings, they won't do that. Why? Because they're going to say, man, I ain't never see my dad go to work. My mama never left the house. You know what I'm saying? This is what they did to make income. And they took care of us, right? So that's how you pass it down, by the example, along with the education. So we have to figure out a way, how can we get free? The freer we are, you know what I'm saying, meaning money, time, and location, the freer our children will be, because they will see that example.
Money, time, and location, very, very important. And of course, the example that you show to your kids. Yes, I totally understand that. I'm still working on that, Supreme. I want to do like you doing. I'm still working on it. It's a continuing battle. Brother Jeff, the same thing Supreme was talking about, but talk about also the importance of will, beneficiary, estate planning, and life insurance. All those things mixed in, and what Supreme was talking about.
So, man, it is not a secret that we can make money. Okay. A lot of times, I would say the reason why you don't see, and you don't have those iconic names today, because a lot of our money is newer money, right? We are getting to the point where we have seats at the table. We are a part of the boardroom conversations. And in some cases, the boardroom is supporting what we are doing, right? But a lot of that is still new money, right? You're starting to see more Black billionaires step up and start to be more philanthropic. You've seen how much debt was paid off. Good gosh, was it Spelman? I think it was Spelman's one of the classes. So you see all of this stuff is happening, but it is new money. So we really haven't seen the transference of generational wealth, but he hit the nail on the head with, we can only do what we're modeled, right? What's modeled for us, whether that's from our parents or we see somebody else. Read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. His poor dad was the head of education, was, sharper than anything out there, but died broke. Poor dad didn't have any education, but he was modeling to Robert Kiyosaki what needed to be done. As I travel, I see the modeling of it. I see, like Brother Frost said, the 6, 7, 8, 12-year-old running the business. I don't know where their parents are. I don't know if they're supposed to be in school or not, but I see them count money. I give them US or I give them pesos and they're changing everything back. Sharp, I see this being modeled, right? But a lot of times in our family, we haven't got out of the worker bee phase to really model what entrepreneurship looks like you said. So we can get to the point where life insurance is probably one of the easiest ways to start to transfer wealth. As long as you got your health, you can qualify. You don't buy insurance with your money. You pay for it with your money, but you buy it with your health. So most people might not have that entrepreneurial mindset or bone in their body, but they can afford some insurance premiums, right? Okay, so when you get the insurance, the idea behind wealth is to own nothing but control everything. How do we do that? This is where you introduce legal documents like a trust. Now, it's not uncommon, the more people are familiar with what a will does, but a will go straight to probate. And you know how some of our family can get as it relates to money. I'm dealing with a client currently, and this guy went to a funeral and got jumped by the family member because they thought you know, he inherited some money and they didn't get some. They literally jumped him at the funeral, right? So this is how crazy sometimes people get when we know there's money left behind, because it's so easy to say just, hey, cuz, you know, let me hold something. Oh, I got this good idea, but you don't have any other thing behind the idea. So we got so much stuff that we have to really work on in our family, but we can start by having life insurance, and more than just bury it. I mean, we're real quick to buy, give me the same policy Big Mama had. Just put me something, give me something to put me in the ground. When I was with New York Life, we had this thing called the $50 billion empowerment plan. 50 billion. And our goal was over a 5-year period to produce $50 billion in enforced life insurance for the African-American community. Okay, so how do you do that? You go get your Black agents to go out and talk to other Black people about the importance of finance, having a budget, even having a simple will. Now, ultimately, in my opinion, the goal is to have a trust. Okay, if you're really doing it, then you want to have an islet, which is set aside just for wealth transfer. Okay, but when you have a trust, you can govern that trust from the grave. Okay, you can keep your private life private with a trust. When you are doing something by virtue of a will is going to go to probate. Now it's published and everybody else gets to get in line and fight over what's going on. Personally, for me, in my trust, if anybody in my family tries to argue about what I left behind, they get cut out immediately. Simple as that. So you either accept the gift that I've given you or not. But what I also did is I have stipulations. The first part of that money that comes out, it has to be used to purchase life insurance, specifically cash value life insurance. So number one, you can't say you don't have the money because I'm leaving it to you. The only thing you can probably say is, I don't have the health for it, but I'm leaving you the money and I got the instructions on how the money needs to be used. So for me, understanding how this whole thing transfers, I have to be responsible to protect my family against themselves. Go ahead.
I need more specifics on trust.
Okay.
Okay, if we don't know nothing about trust.
Okay, gotcha.
Give us a little bit more specifics
Perfect.
on how that's set up and that.
Okay. You have two basic trusts, a revocable and irrevocable. A revocable trust, both of them are living, breathing documents that you typically get done through an attorney, okay? And they write up the legal steps in the legalese based on your state, what needs to happen. So anything that you have the trust as the beneficiary for. So if I have my life insurance policy, I have the trust as the beneficiary. That means when I die, the money doesn't go to people. It goes inside this living, breathing legal contract. And I have already spelled out what needs to happen with this money. Now, a revocable means I can make changes whenever I want to. Irrevocable means I'm not making any changes. So I might put a large amount of life insurance over there because I don't ever want to touch it. And I might spend down my other assets or whatever, but I know I got a life insurance policy inside my ILIT, irrevocable life insurance trust, that is going to replace the wealth. That way I can spend it down and the government doesn't get it. Or if they do get some, I have enough life insurance to let the government get their cut, but it's not devaluing the legacy that I'm planning on leaving.
Another question.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the executor of the trust? Is it an attorney? Or
Okay.
are you specifically setting up somebody?
You choose. So for me, I am the trustee, the trust maker, right? So I made the trust and I'm the first trustee because I'm alive. Okay. At the time that I die, that revocable turns into an irrevocable. And I have two other people, two other trustees that I trust to make sure these well wishes are done to the letter of the law based on the trust. If for some reason both of those two people happen to die in a common accident, that attorney or that firm steps in place of that. If you don't have anybody that you trust, you can hire that, most likely the attorney firm, to kind of be on standby. But normally you do it, you have the trustee as somebody that you actually trust to handle your affairs if something happens to you, whether that's a family member or an outside, a third party disinterested person. And I have money left behind to make sure they get compensated for their time as well.
Very important information. Darryl, being in the real estate business, I'm sure you've come across some of these things. What are your comments on what Brother Jeff was saying?
I totally agree with you. Just having the trust set aside, insurance inside the trust to pay off debt, to pay off mortgages, those things are very important and beneficial for the family as a whole. I think that, having the will set aside, that does the will or trust to have your wishes taken care of. Let's say, for example, I met with a family this week where, mom and dad died, two sisters and a brother. Nobody wants to really take over the property. No one's paying the property taxes. One sister steps in, she's doing it. And now that she's almost ready to buy it herself or to finance it herself after paying the property taxes, she believes the brother and sister have agreed to let her have it, but there's nothing in writing. But as Jeff made mention of, it could be at the funeral where you look up all of a sudden that amnesia comes in and no one remembers what we agreed to or talked about before. So having it in writing, and I think even in putting the trust together as a trustee, bringing your family along through the whole process so they understand it's not like they open up the paperwork and they didn't know, but they were a part of the process of putting it all together. Everyone understands what the instructions are. And now that we're here at this point, one thing too, you take out the emotions, because at that point, death brings about emotions. But if we've already discussed what's going to happen, if we already know what the wishes are, then you're able to mourn with the emotions and not based on the finances. And with housing, that's very important.
Yes, very powerful information. This is not subjects that are talked about a lot in our community. Maybe a small percentage of them talk about trust and beneficiaries and those particular things. But what I saw in my research, for instance, if somebody does not have a will and it goes to the probate court gets their money first. They get their money out the top. I mean, so you might have 25% of your whole assets caught up into legal maneuvering. Go ahead, brother.
So when I was meeting with my estate planning attorney, this is how she described it to me. Okay. So you guys, if you can see my picture, you see there's tables back there. Imagine this being a long table. Okay. And you see the first orange chair is right by my hand. Okay. And behind that chair is your family. Everybody is starting in this orange chair and they're going down that table around, and whatever is left comes to your family. So imagine a big cup of water and that thing is passed and everybody gets their sip. And when it comes around to your family, whatever's left goes to them. This is why you would rather have a trust over a will, because a will is going to go straight to probate, which is in the court system, and it has to be contested or maybe not. So to keep your private life private, put your stuff inside of a trust where you own nothing. So if you sue me, what are you getting? I don't own anything. You're not suing my trust. My trust didn't do anything to you, right? I own nothing, but I control everything. And that's why you have different types of trust. And I didn't get too high level with different variations of trust. I kept it simple between an ILET and a revocable.
Powerful. We need more information on that. I'm gonna have to do much more research myself and understand this concept. Sounds like it's not as difficult to understand as the world makes it out to be, but you just got to have somebody to break it down in simple terms like you all are doing. So that's something that we need to know. If you have questions on Facebook about this, certainly share with us and we'll get back to you. Brother Supreme, you hear all this information about background, about trust, about all of those particular things. Your money network share, is that mostly Bitcoin or is it other things? And do you have a comment on the conversation about trust?
Well, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, for our money network, we talk about cryptocurrency. We really talk about the technology, right? And the blockchain is very critical to what can be done. You know what I'm saying? It's just about seeing stuff before it really happens. The internet opened up the door for this, right? So when the internet opened up the door for this, we're going into a digital world. No doubt about that, right? Everything right now, you got a credit card, you got a debit card, the funds on there is some numbers that the bank put in. You know, now you might go to an ATM and get physical, but it's digital. So we are more geared around teaching about the use of certain type of coins. We don't promote Bitcoin per se because Bitcoin is at 40,000 and it's down about 25,000 below its all-time high. So, you know, we talking to poor people or people that don't have that type of Robert Kiyosaki, Michael Saylor type of money, then they're not going to get rich off of Bitcoin. That train has left the boat. You know, that train has passed. But it is a way for a person to have control of their funds. Even if they did put it in Bitcoin, but it's very volatile. They could lose a lot of their funds. So we don't teach it from that standpoint. It's just that what we're involved in the ecosystem that pays us in Bitcoin. Like we see the celebrities and the athletes starting to come out and act their whole salary in Bitcoin. Why? Because it is decentralized. They do control it and it has the potential to go up. But that's what our income is in and what we're involved in the system, the ecosystem we're in right now. But when you're dealing with a trust, to my limited understanding about a trust or whatever, you know, it sounds good. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not opposed to that, period. You know what I'm saying? It sounds something logical that we should, you know, do. No problem with that. On the flip side, when you're dealing in crypto, though, when you're dealing in the technology, the digital world, you know, you can literally, it's up to you to place where you want to place. You know, I heard somebody say, I can't remember who said it, that we're going away from leaving wills. Now we're leaving password and private key. You know what I'm saying? So we pretty much get at you know, who it is. Like I got a wife, boom. Something happened to me. She know how to get into everything. She know what the vision is. And I can have a will wrote out to just her. You know what I'm saying? And then she can have a will wrote out to another child and so forth and so forth. And it gives us the freedom and the independence to kind of do stuff outside of the system, like what Jeff was saying, with a will to keep the courts out of everything, with a white man trying to get his slice of the cake. Well, you didn't help me get it, white man. You know what I'm saying? So why am I cutting you in on what I did and what I established? You know, that's for my family to get it all. But, you know, nothing wrong with it if you need it to be allocated like that. Because some people might die, they be single, so they don't have a spouse. Or they might have a spouse that they don't even trust. You know what I'm saying? You know, so that stuff would be needed. But when we're going into this digital world, family, and then stuff like a trust can actually be put on the blockchain. They can put anything on the blockchain. Medical records, because blockchain is really just a store of data. Unlimited store of data that can't be hacked and can't be manipulated. Once it's on the blockchain, you can't go back and mix the numbers up. You can't go do none of that. It's done. It's there. That's what it looks like. You know, you can't manipulate it. So, but it's very critical, and I'm enjoying the session, man. I was just listening, you know, because it's very knowledgeable that we have to use every avenue possible to get our new generation ahead. As long as it's legal, you know what I'm saying? They ain't gonna say by any means, but by any legal means, you know, we have to do everything possible to make sure our next generations and generations to come don't have to start from zero. Well, majority of us started.
Peace and power, my brother. You talked about the digital platform, the digital way. There's many other ways that people have talked about as far as building generational wealth. Darryl's in real estate. There's many different ways. What are some of the ways that you think are possible for people? Real estate, how about Forex? How about starting a business? what is your aspect if you were going to encourage somebody? Of course, you have to take what they know, or they would have to start with what they know. But what are some of the different ways that you would encourage somebody to start to build generational wealth? Darryl, start with you.
Of course, real estate is a great way to start with your own home and buying your own home as a single person, buying a home, buying a condo, buying a duplex. And then when you get married, you put two properties together with the new person that you're married to, and then from there grow and buy another property. I think so. Real estate is definitely what I mean. If you look at the historical billionaires of the world and look at what they actually own and what they started with, the real estate is like the main thing to build wealth with. I mean, they talk about McDonald's. We think McDonald's sells hamburgers. McDonald's is one of the largest landowners in the country. I mean, you talk about a Bill Gates. Bill Gates is like owns the most farmland in the country. So you start looking at people and really looking at what they do and really looking at their assets, most of it is based on and starts with real estate. So real estate is very important to start with. And, just to add something too, I think about from a job standpoint, having a job. I heard a lady on the radio this week that talked about having a job, living on the bare minimum that she could afford to live on, and then having the matching system with her job as far as a 401k, a 403b, just whatever the company's matching, you give that much to the company because you believe in the company because that's where you work. And then be as aggressive as possible with the investments that you make at the company and how you can actually make a good living and make a good investment while working on the job. And then you can retire later on and have a good retirement to then make an investment, but become either real estate entrepreneur or business entrepreneur. But we have to learn to utilize, even on our jobs, the 401k, the pension plans that are offered to us, and match it. I mean, I've seen, I've been on jobs before where you talk to people about what they're doing. Of course, everyone wants to be private about it, but it's like, I don't mind talking about how I'm gonna do the most aggressive investing I can with the company, and I'm gonna do the max I can to get my money matched so I can be invested twice as much money. And I think we need to encourage that, just to be young people that get jobs that don't know that. I mean, we've educated them to get an education, to get a job. At least when you get that job, how do I invest my money on that job? So we have to look at it two different ways.
Sounds powerful. Jeff, same comment, same conversation.
Hey, what part do you want me to comment on?
Comment on best ways to build generational wealth.
Okay, all right. So for me, entrepreneurship is something that I have a passion for because there's an element of ownership in there, right? And it's hard to leave something that you don't own. And I remember when I was in college talking to my counterparts who didn't look like me and asking them about their degrees and their plans after college. And there was a common theme that I kept hearing from them. Oh man, I just got to get a degree and I'm going to take over the family business. Okay. And it's one thing if you hear a one-off, but when you hear multiple people say, oh yeah, I'm getting a degree and I'm gonna work in the family business, or I'm gonna take over the family business. And I only had to hear that a couple of times before I'm like, wait, pump the brakes. What's all these family businesses y'all talking about? And I remember in college, now granted, my first business I started when I was 11, 12 years old, like most of us, cutting grass. I knew how to push a lawnmower. Let me go out there. I can knock on some doors. I know you ain't trying to get out here in this heat and cut y'all grass. I got you. $15, whatever, cool. And after you ask enough people, I started a route. And I had 10, 15 people a week. I can just go cut whenever I wanted to, right? So transition from there, went to college because I had to be in corporate America because that's where it was, only to find out I'm trying to climb this ladder that I didn't own. Somebody controlled my entire life. It wasn't until I made the shift to go back to my passion for entrepreneurship that my life really changed. And then all of a sudden, it's like, wow, man, if people knew how much freedom was out here, it would be more people probably trying to fight. Now, it's not easy, right? You're going to work hard, but 9 times out of 10, you probably working hard for somebody already. But I'm thinking when I transition to entrepreneurship, maybe I'm not going to work as hard. I went from working maybe 40 hours a week to 70 to 90 at a minimum. I started working way harder for myself than I was for the man, but I was working harder, not just for my first name, but for my last name, right? So for me, a lot of that wealth, I got 12 plus years of experience that I can now pass into generations. I can teach them the value of hard work and entrepreneurship and multiple sources of income. So Brother Fraud, I love what he said. Your kids don't see you clocking in. They see you working, right? But they don't see you clocking in. So I love my wife and I and how we're building this entrepreneurship journey where we're able to travel around the world full time and we make money online. We make money from our phones, with our voices, with our God-given abilities that somebody else would have been exploiting for their own families. Why not exploit myself and for the generations, right? So a lot of the wealth, in my opinion, comes from entrepreneurship. Now, I'm not discounting real estate. Love it. We're going to be multi-family owner. We're going to do it all. But again, a well-developed portfolio has a little bit of everything. Sure, these billionaires might have started with real estate, but eventually they branched into other businesses. But now I don't have to start at the bottom. I can have a seat at the table. Look at Shark Tank. These people are saying, listen, I got money laying around doing nothing. Money is best when it's in motion. So how about I take this $50,000, give me 15% stake in your company, plus, whatever, and let's make it happen. And I got the network to help make sure I get my ROI on what I'm giving you. So when you get to the point to where if you can only do so many businesses yourself that I need to manage, but I can buy into something like, for example, I bought Amazon automation. I have the money in the bank account doing nothing. So why not take this risk and put the money over here, let somebody else build this business for me. And if they take 30%, cool, that's cost of doing business. I would have had that anyway. McDonald's has a cost of doing business. Everybody has some type of cost of doing business. So why not take this lazy money and turn it into an asset that can cash flow? I don't need the money that's going to cash flow. So what do? I make me more babies, more money babies. There's a book you should get, The Richest Man in Babylon. That'll change your perspective on how you save money. And it teaches you a system on how to start using less, but being able to invest more. So when you think about the principles of money, you got to learn how to earn it, which we can work our butt off. You got to learn how to keep it. Then you got to learn how to multiply it. And me personally, I like to add a fourth one. I need to learn how to transfer it for generations. Earn, keep, multiply, transfer.
Powerful, powerful information. We are close to the end of our powerful program. Again, those on Facebook, if you have comments for our guests, please share those and we'll make sure they get back to you. Brother Supreme, we're at the end. Share the final comment that you have on money, making money, building generational wealth, and then share how people can contact you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Man, what everybody said is right on. I just want to try to bring some balance to it. You're right, brother Darrell, Jeff. A lot of the billionaires that we see have a lot of real estate, but that's not how they got it. We can never forget about that. Real estate ownership is kind of complicated to really get in a big way because it takes capital, right? So you said about Bill Gates. Bill Gates got rich from building a business. Then he went and put some of that cash that was coming in so lucrative into all the real estate. The same with Jeff Bezos, same with Mark Zuckerberg, the same with Warren Buffett. You know, when you're talking about real estate investment, see, because the average one of us, I deal with realtors all day long. Talk to them all day long. The average realtor, they will tell you they in real estate, but they just a broker. They just an agent. They don't really own any property. They just helping close deals and mortgage deals. They just like a middleman to somebody buying a property. You know, so they don't really own it. They in it for commission, right? But when we're talking about real estate ownership, it's no doubt about it. That is a way to build generational wealth. It's just not an easy thing to do. You know what I'm saying? Because if we take a mortgage, you know, that's a family going into debt for 30 years, 35 years. You know, nothing wrong with that. You need that. But if it's other ways around doing it and getting into it, because when companies go public, you know, we don't typically know about that. You know, we don't typically know about that. So when it comes to making money, build generational wealth, we have to transition with the time. You know what I'm saying? It ain't what it used to be. It ain't that today. Remember, cotton used to be the #1 product in America, in the Western world. It's not today. Then it went to, then it's now, this is why America's all over the planet. Why? Because of oil, right? It ain't, you know what I'm saying? It's oil right now, but oil is going down. Now it's going more into technology. So to you know, talk about what Brother Darrell was saying, the blockchain, back to the technology is about what you know and who you know. That can get you somewhere that you might don't be privy to. Blockchain technology is fractioning. They break in real estate down to fractions. Only the blockchain can do this. For what am I mean? All right, say we go and buy this apartment complex and we want a big pool of investors. We can't break it down into fractions of square inches. If we put it on the blockchain and tokenize it, then we could. Then we can have people coming in, getting inches of this real estate, young, old, parents getting it, leaving it to their children for very little. Now they can get into the ownership of real estate that will pass over that residual passive income, you know, that passive income. So it's many ways out there to make money. But I always say, I'm a networker, so I always say network marketing is one of the keys because it builds people leverage. It builds people leverage. I heard Robert Kiyosaki said, he encouraged it. He said, if I encourage the young people to do something, I would say, go and get in network marketing. Go and spend 3 to 5 years in a network marketing deal because it's going to build you relationships. It's going to give you education, but it's going to build the person leverage where they can make money while they sleep. You know, try to get rich there. Some do, some don't. It's all about what you put in any endeavor we get into, you know, and it's about doing business at the speed of thought, like Jeff said, the 21st century, doing business at the speed of thought. I just need to think about making money and be able to make it. I don't have to go nowhere. I don't have to, because that's what it's about. And so I always encourage network marketing, you know what I'm saying? And I'm always encouraging getting educated and looking for opportunities that's transitioning with the technology world that's advancing us. We can't be back in the time, you know, looking back, because that's not here. Those opportunities is not relatively available like they used to be because time is changing, the world is advancing. So that's what I have to say about making money like that, you know, but building a business, building a brand, that's why I built the brand Fard Money. That's what it's about. But yes, that is something that you can pass down. My brand, my business is the #1 asset that I feel like I got along with my time. So with that being said, people can, whoever watching, you can follow me on Facebook, Fard Money Network. My personal page is Fard Mahdi. We on Twitter, Fard Money, New Millennium Bankers. We on Instagram, Fard Money Network, New Millennium Bankers, and our main channel is on YouTube at Fard Money.
Peace and power, my brother. Always a pleasure working with you, talking with you. You bring so much insight and passion. Thank you always. Now I want to move to Brother Darrell. Did you have some comments on what Brother Supreme said?
No, I mean, diversity is the main thing now. Like I said, we're changing, you know, some things change, some things stay the same, but you got to be diversified. And the more diverse you are, the safer you are when the volatility of markets. I mean, real estate market goes up and down. Right now, we see the market is way up based on how it is up. You know, to me, it's, I want to say almost a manufactured up, meaning that, you know, all of a sudden we got a wood shortage. Now we got car shortages. We got chip shortages, all these different shortages. that are causing all kinds of things to go up. You got used cars now that cost more than they were when they were brand new because of shortages. So you got to be aware of the various diversity and diversify your monies, diversify your education, diversify your legal aspects of protecting your assets, and just so that you can be protected and ready to go for whatever happens in the world. And then the world, now we're looking at global markets, not just a US market, but a global market, and just understanding that the globe is an investment in and of itself. And I mean, I was watching a show this week that talked about how in Mozambique, in Africa, that China is like the #2 investor in Africa. And so that means that they own a great deal of the assets. So they went to the shipping yards. You had all Chinese ships. You had all Chinese workers. You had all Chinese equipment. And they were talking about how they were building all this infrastructure in Africa. But basically the infrastructure was to take you from the port to the Chinese hotels that they're building in Africa. So we have built-in assets that we're a part of by being African-American that we can participate in. We learn to trust one another, diversify what we invest in, and invest in our own selves, first with education, then with savings, savings on our jobs, investing on our jobs if we're working a job, or investing in companies, learning from one another. I think one more thing, and I'm gonna end it for me. I think about Houston. You had commercials with John Moore Plumbing, historical plumbing company that's based in Houston, where Mr. John Moore is deceased. He's not living. But the owner of John Moore Plumbing is his female daughter that's a master plumber that's probably never been under a house, probably never been under a sink, but she's the master plumber and the head plumber for John Moore Plumbing. So we have to educate our kids how to participate in our businesses. And then in that education, first to get the on-the-job training or the education to go out for a female to go out and become a master plumber, she had to get the education for that. So we have to educate our kids to participate by license. I mean, you can't take over some business because you're not licensed to do it. But if you're educated to do it, you can always hire someone else that is licensed to do it. But if we're not educated and we haven't participated, then there's a problem.
So much information, so many different aspects, and this is all great for our audience because these things are so important. So many things to talk about, and we want to help build generational wealth. I know I'm very much into this concept, this idea. Every aspect we're talking about, that's what I'm into, trying to find a way to pass on my name, my essence for generations. 100 years from now, I want somebody to know who was 100 years from now. I want somebody to say, Baruti Carl Alexander, he did something. So these things are very important. How do we pass on our essence, our name, and who we are, and have a new community of people say, I'm glad he came about and I'm glad he did what he did. Brother Jeff, first, before I get to Jeff, Supreme, you have any other comment that you wanted to share, Darryl? Supreme?
No, sir, family. Everybody is touching on it, man. This has been amazing platform to be on, brother. So I just want to thank you for putting it together, brother, and for the invite, brother.
And I'm thankful for you to show up every time and share your information. Brother Jeff, take us away with very powerful words on building generational wealth.
Before I do that, Brother Darrell, did you want to give any contact information for people to reach out to you at all?
Oh, great. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. I want to say also, Jeff, that I like how you said, I want to be known by both my first name and my last name. That's powerful there. And so with that in mind, I can be reached at www.darrylmalloy, DARRYLMALLOY.realtor. You can find me there. You can also contact me. I don't mind giving out my number, 469-649-6274. I'm based in the Dallas area, but I'm working all over the state of Texas. So I have a team, Texas, and we can help you with all your real estate needs. I do lots of probate, will, generational. I'm a senior real estate specialist. I work with seniors, and there's so many deals out there because they haven't moved into what Jeff is talking about with the living trust and the trust, that we're still dealing with wills, and that we're possibly losing properties because wills were probated, were not probated correctly. And we just need to make sure that that is taken care of. So I am available to work with you if you have any inheritance or probate type issues that you need to work with in real estate, all over the state of Texas.
You say your number
Yes,
again,
Supreme.
brother Darrell?
469-649-6274.
6274.
469. You been fast, brother.
It's okay. It's okay. It's by design. 469-649-6274.
All right, I put it in the chat box.
I appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes. Brother Jeff, take us home with the
And-
conversation about building generational wealth.
Okay, so again, appreciate the fellas for being able to pop on here and give insight. I love the fact, speaking of diversity, having the diversity of people and ideas, so we're not always gonna agree on every topic. And sometimes there's beauty in that, because if you talk to somebody who was really big into real estate, they're gonna tell you real estate is the way to go, right? You talk to a guy like Tim Sykes, who got rich off penny stocks and became a multimillionaire. He's gonna tell you this is the way to go. Right? You talk to somebody who made all their money online with information, this is the way to go. But I like the fact that most people, once they get it, they got smart enough to start to diversify, right? So I'm gonna give you guys a pro tip and a huge heads up. If you wanna get wealthy, you have to get in front of a trend. You have to get in front of a massive trend. Okay. Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, massive trend. Think about people who made a lot of money in real estate. They got in before a trend, or maybe it was a big valley, a recession, everything was on sale. They knew it was going to rebound. They got in front of that trend of the rebound. So information, technology, information online education. This is a huge trend. So if you are tapping in on Zoom, or maybe Rudy, you can put that link that I just put into Facebook. Right now, online education is about an $8 billion a year industry. By 2027, it's going to be a $53 billion. So that means $1 billion a week will be spent in online education in the next 6 years. So if you are not understanding what I'm telling you, you need to learn something that you can teach online and position yourself in front of the people who are wanting to do this. If COVID didn't teach you anything, is that people are now open to working from home, to learning online, because our kids got educated online and some of our parents got educated online, but you want the person they were learning from. So there's a thing of market share that's happening. We typically saw market share from a big boy standpoint. Fox wants your attention, MSNBC, all these big stations. But now, because of YouTube and social media, I need to be competing for my market share. Who is the person, like Baruti said, that's rocking with Jeff Hill, who understands what I'm teaching and what I've learned and my value proposition, and says, you know what, I need to be following this guy. You don't have to have all the answers. I just need to be one step ahead of the people that I'm leading, right? And if it's something that I know, I need to be humble enough to bring other people in to learn. This is how you start to leave that footprint and that legacy, because if you are teaching and you are putting the information out there and it's working, the generations coming behind you and your bloodline can go watch everything you did. One of the things that I told one of my younger brothers, and I said, when I die, you shouldn't even want the money that I leave behind. You should want my notes. You should want everything that I was studying. You should want my books and my programs that I bought. And if you do get the money as well, you should be able to multiply it really quickly, because I wouldn't have been able to do enough to get the money to leave behind if I wasn't learning, right? So you have to be your first believer. Get in front of a trend that we know is happening. Learn crypto. People didn't want to learn the internet at one point in time, but look what happened. 95% of the stuff they do probably runs through some type of online platform, right? How many Amazon packages have you gotten in the last month? Online, right? So how are we positioning ourselves for the future? We have to stop playing so much defense and start playing some offense, right? So that's my gift to you guys, is learn both how to play defense and offense, right? But at some point in time, we got to get in the game. We can't just keep doing everything traditional because it worked. Me personally, no knock to what Brother Darrell said, but I am against the 401k the way it's commonly designed. I just am. The reason being is because of taxation. When you understand what's going on economically and how much money we're printing, think about it like this. Who do you love more at the Internal Revenue Service than you do your family? Because whatever that account balance is, that's not all going to your family at the time that you die. Because if you die too early, you hadn't spent it, it's going to be taxed. And if taxes are going to be higher in the future, how much less are you leaving to your family? That's why I like to take my money out of those particular sources and put them in private tools that I have more control over, that are safe, liquid, and productive. That's just my personal philosophy as an advisor. But I also look at myself as the core money guy. I always tell people, bring me the money that you don't want to lose, the money that you want to invest that you don't want to lose. Everybody's philosophy is different. Okay, but I'm just looking at the economics of what's going on. Most 401ks where they're commonly designed are not very good for the long term. Now, some companies, great. Some people, great. But if most people really took a look at what was going on, they would probably think a little bit differently about it. So I like a little mixture of everything, guys. Don't just be so weighted in one part of your portfolio. You should have enough focus in an area, but as it's producing more money, especially if it gives you freedom to not work the 9 to 5 or work less hours so you can start to learn more about how to scale, then do that, right? Play a game called Rich Dad Cash Flow, richdad.com/classic. You can sign up for a free account, play that thing every single day until it starts to make sense. Just like you played Monopoly in the game of life growing up, you were only playing it as a game, not as a teaching tool. Play the games now as an adult, as a teaching tool, and learn everything that you didn't get the first time you were playing it. And watch how much different your life starts to change and how you start to look at investment opportunities differently because you understand how to manage your risks. Okay. And I'll leave with that. So again, if you want a little more, you can follow me, HFGINC. This stands for Hill Financial Group, Inc., HFGINC on Instagram, or you can follow the personal page, Jeff Hill Speaks. On Facebook, just type in Hill Financial Group, Inc., and I should pop up. Again, you can also have my number, 501-291-0708. Rudy, again, I appreciate it. But in case you didn't realize, this is your gift. This particular platform that you have created and how you bring people together is part of what helps your name live on. Okay. So the bigger this is and the wider you go, the more that name will continue to ring. And when you take the information that you're being taught here and get out of the comfort zone and do it, it's going to be blood, sweat, and tears. But think about it. You're young. What do you want the next 42 years of your life to look like? The first part of it was just practice, right? So once you start getting the results, your family has to pay attention, because we love the idea of leaving money behind and leaving businesses. But sometimes, unfortunately, from what I've seen, your children don't want to do the same business that you did. They just don't. They have other passions. So in our efforts to give something to them, we say, you know what? I got built this big business and I want my daughter or my son to take it over. Well, maybe they're incompetent. And I don't mean it in a negative way. Maybe they just don't have the capacity to handle that business, but they have a knack somewhere else. Right? So how can we leave something behind that can allow them to spark their own vision and maybe create something else? So as much as I would love to leave my business, I just also understand not everybody's going to be able to get licensed or handle the capacity of dealing with numbers the way I deal with. But I also want to leave a financial and an educational legacy in case they have different desires. I want to be able to leave that gift to them so they can forge their own path, but not devour the wealth that I've started to create. So again, that's me. Jeff Hill, Hill Financial Group Incorporated, a wealth accumulation firm. Thank you.
Peace and power, such powerful information. I mean, we're going to have to replay out there in the audience. I suggest you replay this video several times so you can pick up the notes, get your notepad, so you can figure out what's going on. It's so much information. And we're going to continue to have programs like this. Continue to talk about finances, continue to talk about building generational wealth. This is the Sourceseeker Hour.
Hey, Brother Carl, real quick, brother. Hold on, brother.
Yes, sir.
Hold on. My wife just pointed out something to me.
Okay, yes,
When
sir.
you get off of here, go into your edit your post, the live stream, and make it public. We can't share it because you got it only set for friends.
Okay, well, I will work on that. Certainly this video will be coming out in a second. Once we get off the air, it will be available for everybody. It takes about 15 minutes. I wasn't aware of that aspect. So we'll make sure about that next time. But we're at the end of our program. This has been a great program with a lot of knowledge, and we're going to continue. This is the Sourceseeker Hour. I'm your host, Baruti Carl Alexander. Thank you, everybody. Send your notes to us, and we'll get them answered, and we'll reach back out to you and share information. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day, and